Welcome everyone. Minasan konnichiwa. My name is Yoshi Domoto. I'm the executive director of the Japan America Society of Georgia. And welcome to this week's segment of Have a Coke and Tea with the Society, as we have a very special guest today, Mr. Mike Raymer, who is the co-chair of our education committee and also the executive director of the Georgia Council for Economic Education. But Mr. Mike, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what kind of work you do.
Thanks, Yoshi. I'm thrilled to be here. As you mentioned, I'm the executive director of the Georgia Council on Economic Education. And what we do is we help teachers across the state, K-12 teachers, we help them teach economics and personal finance, which are requirements in the Georgia public schools. We have found that most teachers teaching economics in elementary, middle, and high school don't have much of a background in economics. So we step in and we provide professional development and lesson plans and trainings to help these teachers be better teachers in the classroom. I'm a former economics teacher myself. I taught for 9 years at Starrs Mill High School in Fayette County, and I was the econ teacher, one of the econ teachers there. And when I started, I had 2 econ courses ever in my life, and I really didn't know what to do. I don't think I was being an effective teacher. And I started coming to Georgia Council workshops, and my life changed 1,000%. I went from being sort of, staying one day ahead of my students to becoming very confident in what I was doing. The Georgia Council provided a lot of really great lesson plans and activities and ideas on how to be a better teacher. And it also connected me with other experienced econ teachers. And I quickly became much better at my job. I was forever thankful to the Georgia Council. And then in 2008, I had the opportunity to actually come aboard and work for the Georgia Council. And I was a program manager for a number of years. And what I would do is I would travel around Georgia and drive, thousands of miles each year, working with teachers in every county you can think of in the state. So I worked with thousands of teachers. And then 2.5 years ago, my boss retired and I took over as executive director. So now my role primarily is fundraising and board communications and community communications, things like that. So I've really kind of stepped away from the education part of it. Now I'm more of a business side of the organization. We've been around since 1972. I think for what we do, we're one of the most productive councils in the country. Most states have a council like ours to help teachers teach economics and personal finance. But we typically in a year, we conduct probably more workshops for more teachers than most other councils in the country. It's a fun job, it's a challenging job. It's really critically important, I think, for students to learn about economics and personal finance, particularly in a time like this during this COVID crisis, when so much is going wrong with the economy for multiple reasons. It really is, I think, great for kids to understand kind of what's going on, and it will help them prepare themselves for their financial futures, which we're always stressing with our teachers. We have a small staff. There's 4 of us here, Chris, Angie, and Barbara. We get a lot done considering the size of our staff and our budget. I couldn't be more proud of the staff and what we were able to accomplish each year.
Well, I know these are certainly challenging times for all of us, but I know that the work that you do with the council, your staff, your team members, all the teachers that you work with, we can't thank you enough for everything that you do. As we're all struggling with students, whether they're learning all online or hybrid or maybe a combination of all of the above. But we appreciate all the work you do and helping us kind of stay afloat during these kind of challenging times. So thank you so much, Mike. But before we go on, as the name of this series says, Have a Coke and Tea with the Society, just wanted to kind of let everyone know and all of our viewers knows that I am drinking a nice, refreshing Coca-Cola. Mike, you are drinking, it's like drinking some Dasani Coca-Cola water, right? My
favorite drink is awfully boring, but my favorite drink really is water, and I'm happy to drink this Dasani water. So cheers.
Perfect. Great. Cheers, and kanpai, right? So, Well, Mike, I know you are the co-chair of our education committee and also serving on our board, but tell us a bit about how you got first introduced to Japan. You don't look Japanese, but I know you're American. So how'd you connect with Japan, and tell us the story behind all of that?
So back when I was in teaching, this might have been 2006 or 2007, A colleague of mine came back from Japan. She did a summer, like a 2-week study tour kind of thing to Japan. And I was like, tell me more about this. And it was a Kkc Fellowship program that she was accepted for and participated in. And she told me all about it. And it sounded fascinating to me. One of my life's pleasures is traveling to other countries. So I kind of talked to her a little bit more about it and had the idea that someday I would actually apply to hopefully get picked for one of these trips. And in 2008, I did that. I applied, and I had met you by that point, and you gave me some pointers, and I got picked to go. So in the summer of 2008, I, along with I think 11 other educators from the United States, went and spent 2 weeks in Japan. We were in Tokyo and Nikko primarily, and I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with the country, with the people, the culture. I knew a little bit about Japan before going, but being there and experiencing it really opened my eyes to all the great things that Japan has to offer its people and the world. And then when I came back, I started working closely with the Japan American Society of Georgia, because in Georgia, in the public schools, in 7th grade, it's a world geography course, and teachers teach about Japan and the government of Japan, the economy of Japan, a little history and geography of Japan. So that really kind of helped me sort of get more involved with your organization, because we started doing workshops together. At least once a year, we would do something usually at the consulate and bring in, 20 or 30 teachers to learn more about Japan. We'd have guest speakers. And that just kind of snowballed over the years, and my interest kept growing and growing. And then about a year and a half ago, you approached me, and we came up with an opportunity for 3 different high schools to go to Japan. So we traveled. I got to go to Japan with, I think it was 18 students from 3 different schools. And I think there was 7 7 adults kind of chaperoning. So we got to spend a spring break in Japan. Absolutely fabulous time. We were in Tokyo and Hiroshima and Kyoto. And then between those 2 trips, I took one more trip with 2 Georgia teachers, a colleague of mine also named Yoshi, who does what I do in Japan. He's trying to get more staff development for Japanese teachers in economics and personal finance. He actually had me come over with 2 teachers, and we actually went to schools and taught in Japanese classrooms, which was absolutely fascinating as an educator, because you always hear about the way schools are in Japan compared to the way they are in the United States. And it was just really interesting to be in a classroom in front of Japanese students. Something that I would have dreamt of in my wildest dreams, to have that opportunity. So overall, I've been to Japan 3 times and been involved with your organization since 2008. And as a member, on the education committee, it really is my goal to sort of bring more U.S. teachers into the fold so they learn more about Japan and Japanese culture. One final note: when I taught at Starrs Mill in Fayette County, every year I'd have 2 or 3 students whose they were Japanese students who had just recently arrived in Peachtree City, where I lived, because their parents generally were working for a Japanese company. And so I would have Japanese students in my class, and it was always interesting to sort of get their take on U.S. education. My classroom had a tendency to be very loud and active, and a lot of kids moving around. And I think for a lot of Japanese students, that was a big change from what they were used to in their schools, because I think a lot of the education in Japan is more lecture-based, where the students are taking notes and the teacher is talking and they're kind of writing down what they say. So that was interesting to see their take on American education. And oftentimes they were kind of like, what's going on? And it's very loud in here. But it was fun. It was nice. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Well, just a very quick shameless plug on the Kkc Fellowship. The Kkc Center Fellowship is an annual program that sends teachers from all over the U.S. to Japan in the summer for about 10 days to basically allow teachers to learn about the Japanese educational system, learn about Japanese culture, business, everything to do with Japan in a very short period of time. And Mike is definitely one of our all-star alums, as the National Association of Japan American Societies, Kkc Center, and also K-Dan, and always talk about you. And your experience in Japan has really not only a huge amount here in the U.S. with the teachers that you work with, but also the Japanese people in Japan, and they all really enjoy working with you too. So thank you for all that you do. Well, kind of with your, I guess, connection to Japan now, how has that helped you, or how has that impacted your work with the council?
I think anytime you can get an opportunity as an educator, I still consider myself an educator at the end of the day. Anytime I think you can get in front of other educators, whether it's the next county over, the next school over, or in another country, it's great to get their take on the way they're educating their students, because you always kind of learn something that you can use in your own classroom. I think the greatest takeaway from my time in Japan with Japanese educators is just learning more about how serious they take education in Japan compared to how we do it here. Not to say that we don't take our education seriously, but students in Japan, I learned, they're going to school many more hours than our students. They go to sort of study school after school. They spend time on Saturdays going to school sometimes. And just the overall kind of culture where they're all kind of part of a team in a Japanese school. We were in a school in the northern part of Japan, and the students were talking about how they clean they actually clean the rooms. They don't have janitors, the students do it. At the same school, we had lunch in the cafeteria, and when lunch was over, students came around and collected all the dishes and cleaned up. And as an American educator who, I've been in American cafeterias, and when you leave, when it's over, it looks like a bomb went off. I mean, there's just stuff everywhere and trash on the floor. Where here you have Japanese students actually taking the time to clean up. And you sort of sense that, the students realize, because the next day they might be the one cleaning up, they weren't making a giant mess. So it was kind of really great to see that sort of difference of, hey, we're all part of this together and we all have our own role to play. So let's work together and not sort of, be so individualistic. And I really enjoyed that. And then again, in the classroom, another thing that really struck me was how quiet it was. Students were sitting at their desks, really paying attention to their instructor, writing down word for word what they were saying. And it was, as I said earlier, it was lecture-based, kind of, here are the facts, write them down, versus what we preach here at the Georgia Council. We're all about active learning, which is getting students participating and doing things and not just sitting and taking in information. They're actually part of the lesson. So that was interesting to see. And again, it was an opportunity that was sort of an opportunity of a lifetime to be over there in Japanese schools.
Great, thank you. And I think you answered my next question, which was, what can Japanese students and teachers learn more about the American school system, and then vice versa, what Americans can learn more about the Japanese school system? But I think you kind of hit it on right there on the head.
I could add to that.
Both worlds. Sure, please.
I think what American educators in our educational system can learn from the Japanese model is sort of the respect for education and the respect for teachers. Because, I'd always heard, in Japan, students will actually get up and bow to their teacher, and I saw that. And it was great to see they're treated so professionally and almost revered, whereas you don't always get that in the States. Teachers are sometimes not looked upon favorably by a lot of people. I think one of the silver linings of the pandemic is I think a lot of people have realized the important role that teachers play in our society and how important they are. When parents are all of a sudden, kind of educating their children at home themselves, they realize, hey, teachers have a really hard job. So I wish that we would sort of treat our teachers a little more professionally, with more respect, like they do in Japan. As far as what the Japanese, I think, could learn from us is more sort of that active learning, get involved, give up a little management in your classroom and let the kids sort of drive the lesson sometimes, which is hard to do because sometimes that can get out of hand. But I think that would be very beneficial to the Japanese students and American students overall.
Great, thank you. Well, without further ado, wanted to ask one kind of funny question to you. I know you went to Japan as part of the Kkc Fellowship as an educator, and then you went with the council to basically teach best ways to do professional development and encourage teachers to kind of actively improve their lesson planning, and then you went as a chaperone too, taking students. Out of all your trips to Japan, can you tell us maybe one funny story that maybe encourage others to maybe join your path and go visit Japan sometime?
I've got a lot of funny stories, but I don't know if they're appropriate for this kind of thing. One story that it's one of those cultural things that just kind of got lost in translation. The first time I went, we were on a bus going from Tokyo up to Nikko, which is, you might know, maybe a 3-hour bus ride. I forget the exact time, but it's north of the city. And our guide was speaking for most of the way. She was talking on the intercom on the bus. And, eventually I kind of tuned her out because I was getting tired and wanted to take a nap. And I remember her talking about the hotel we were staying in downstairs had a kind of a sauna bath area where you could go and, soak in the tubs and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, that sounds great. And I think we got into town like on a Friday night, and she mentioned, if tonight is for the men, you go downstairs. And so that's the point where I kind of tuned her out. What I didn't hear is the part where she said tomorrow morning, that area becomes an area for the women. So I got there Friday night, I went downstairs, took a soak, and most men are nude walking around. And I was like, oh, this is great. Had a nice time, left. And I thought, oh, I'll do this again tomorrow because I liked it so much. Went down the next day, walked in, and it was all the women in the same area soaking in tubs and me standing there like a fool. And I sheepishly kind of backed out and ran out of there before they called the cops on me. So I guess that's sort of funny. But other things that jumped out at me that were really unique. When we took the students a year and a half ago, just seeing their expressions, and we went to Shibuya Crossing, which is, the busiest intersection in the world, I think, where you've just got, it seems like tens of thousands of people crossing the street all the time. Just seeing students interacting with that, and their minds were just blown because there were so many people, but yet it's so orderly and everyone follows the rules and it works. That's something that really sticks out with me is just the expression on the kids' faces of being like, oh my God. But it all works. And that's one of the things I really love about Japan is that everyone follows the rules. Not everyone, most everyone. I'm a rule follower myself. And I think that's one of the secrets to making it work there. There's so many people in Tokyo, for instance, all in one area, but they follow the rules and it makes everything work. I like that.
Great. Well, for all of you viewers and listeners, be careful when you enjoy Japanese onsen or the hot springs or public baths. Make sure you at least, listen to the directions or instructions, or maybe learn the characters for men and women, right? But yeah, definitely be careful. But I'm glad that you enjoyed the experience of bathing in Japan. Is a very, very big part of Japanese culture. So I'm glad that you're able to take part in that, Mike. But yeah, so we're moving forward. Maybe just one personal question, I guess. So tell us a bit maybe about your family, your hobbies. What do you like to do away from work? I know that work never ends with kind of when you're kind of working in the educational field and industry, but what do you like to do on your spare time?
I'll start with my family. So I've been married to my wife many, many, many years. We started dating in college. So we've been together for 27 years or something like that now. She's a middle school art teacher. She's an amazing art teacher. I've never seen her work harder than she's worked in these last, since March 13th, basically. She's doing a really great job. Super proud of her and what she does for her students. I have a daughter who's a freshman at Georgia State, and when she can live in a dorm, she can't right now, but her dorm will literally be across the street from my office, and I can look into the dorm. It's right over there. She's not too thrilled about that. And I have a son who's a sophomore at McIntosh High School in Peachtree City. 2 cats, love cats. I have 2 cats. Hobby-wise, I love to travel. I'm big into paddleboarding right now. It's kind of keeping me sane during these times. Love photography. I kind of mix my paddleboarding with my photography, and I'm chasing birds around the lake all the time, trying to get pictures of them. I'm a runner. I've been running for like 34 years now, but as I get older, my legs don't like running as much as they used to. So it's becoming harder and harder and harder to do, which is unfortunate because I really, really love running. Other hobbies, I follow the Buffalo Bills. I'm from Buffalo originally. Most years they break my heart pretty early in the season. Big Atlanta United soccer fan. I played soccer in college, so I love soccer, and I've loved soccer even before it was cool to love soccer. Yeah, so those are sort of my hobbies and my family.
Nice. Well, thank you to your wife and Mrs. Raymer for all the work that she's doing. I know teaching art online and virtually is probably more challenging than perhaps any other subject. But thanks to her, and thanks for sharing all your hobbies and your information about your family too. A well-balanced life, and I had no idea about paddle boating. I know it's pretty challenging. There's a lot of kind of core muscle usage, right? So
Yeah, it's super relaxing. I tend to do it on lakes, which is much easier than like in the ocean where there's giant waves. So I'm, it's easier when standing on a lake. It's not that hard. One hobby I forgot. I'm a huge music fan, and I love going to concerts. And I guess one of the things I miss most during this current thing is going to concerts and just being part of that crowd and having a band on stage, bringing it all together. I really, really miss that community that you get. So I'm hoping that someday in my lifetime I can go see another concert again. I'm hopeful.
yeah, best concert that you've been to?
Best concert I've ever been to, Peter Gabriel, and I've got a long list of my top 50, but saw Peter Gabriel way back when I was in college, and it was unbelievable. He was great. Yeah, so I would say Peter Gabriel's number one.
Okay, nice. Well, wrapping things up, can you tell us a little bit about your future goals, maybe personally, or maybe what you like to see the Georgia Council do in the future more of? Also, the Japan American Society, what can we do better in the future too?
So I think professionally, goal-wise, at the Georgia Council, we're always striving to come up with new and great resources for teachers to use. So one of the things we're working on right now, we're creating a new website. So Chris Cannon, the associate director here, he's been working since like July on a new website for high school teachers and high school students who are taking the economics course. And the goal is to have it out next August before the start of the next school year. And it really is a comprehensive look at a typical high school economics course. It's sort of going to be like an economics online textbook, but with more bells and whistles. And students can come in and learn certain concepts. They can actually practice those concepts. There's going to be activities for students to do, and then they're going to be assessed. So if you're a student, you can learn something, practice something, and then have assessment on it. And then for teachers, on top of that, there's going to be actual lessons that they can use to teach those subjects. There's really nothing like it out there right now, and we're very, very excited about this. And when it comes out, I think it's going to be a major game changer for education in the state and across the country. We're partnering with Georgia Public Broadcasting. We've partnered with them before on other projects, and they're going to actually host the website on their site. So I know it's going to get a lot of traffic, and it's going to be very popular with teachers. So professionally, that's sort of the big shiny thing that we're working on right now. We also are looking into doing more international travel with teachers. We actually, back in May, were supposed to be in Ottawa, Canada, with 20 teachers to learn about NAFTA and the U.S.-Canada trade relationship, but that got canceled. So we're looking into doing more things like that in the future, where we can take teachers abroad and have them experience, again, other cultures, other people, other ways of educating, just to sort of make them better teachers. And that's another goal we have here. The other goal is to sort of, again, just keep being successful at what we do and serving teachers. The goal with your organization is to continue to bring more teachers into the fold and show them things like Japan Fest and the Japan theme workshops that we do. And again, you guys are great at bringing in guest speakers that we would not have access to. I'm thinking of Bill Strang with Toto. He's spoken with Georgia, probably more than 100 Georgia teachers about what they do. And teachers come away from that just amazed at how all the great things that Toto is doing and why they're doing it here in Georgia and what it means for Georgia's economy. So whenever we can overlap things like that, we really enjoy doing that. On a personal level, a goal of mine, and it's been a goal of mine for a long time, in my previous life, before I became a teacher, I delivered beer. I was a Teamster. You didn't even know that, did you? So I was a Teamster in Buffalo, New York, and I delivered beer for 6 years. And it was a really hard, like physical labor, backbreaking kind of job. I broke my jaw doing it. I had hurt my back doing it. I mean, it wasn't fun, but it was in a really amazing experience, and the people I met and the sort of the crazy things I saw. So eventually I want to write a book about it, and the end goal would be a screenplay, because it would be I think a very funny story about a college educated, 23-year-old guy delivering beer in Buffalo in the wintertime. It wasn't always fun. So that's one of my goals, is to write a book / screenplay about my Teamster days in Buffalo.
Nice. Well, we'll have to have I guess, part 2 of this interview series.
Yeah.
We interview about all the crazy things that you went through as a beer delivering guy in just negative degrees in the cold winter in Buffalo, right? So
Yes. So when I first started teaching, like my first year, a teacher across the hall was complaining about how hard teaching was, and I just laughed and said, "Well, you should try delivering beer, on the east side of Buffalo in February in a blizzard, and this is pretty easy. Like the heaviest thing I had to lift was a book instead of a keg of beer." So, yeah.
wow. Well, on that note, tell us a little bit more about, for our viewers, how can they learn more about the Georgia Council for Economic Education? What can we do to support you all more? How can we kind of continue to make sure that the education system is kind of on a upward trend, and make sure that all of our teachers and students are well taken care of?
No, thanks. So our website's www.gcee.org if you want to find out more information about what we do. We recently produced a video kind of, talking about the struggles that teachers are going through right now and the challenges they're facing. You mentioned the hybrid model or the in-person model or a combination of the two. So teachers, I think all teachers right now are really working harder than they've ever worked in their lives, and it's a giant challenge to teach in this current climate. So I think Yoshi, you mentioned you could link the video here. So if you give this video a look, you'll see we interview 3 different teachers, and they kind of talk about the struggles they're going through. And if you're interested, we love your financial support. All the money that comes into the Georgia Council goes directly to help teachers. When we are during normal times, when we provide staff development, we don't charge teachers. We pay for their substitute teacher. We provide them lunch. We provide them all the resources at no financial charge. So any help you could offer would be great, and it would ultimately help teachers, and it would, most importantly, would help students in Georgia learn more about economics and personal finance.
Wonderful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy this video that we will be showing to promote the Georgia Council for Economic Education, all the things that teachers are doing, going above and beyond to make sure students are doing well during these difficult times, and certainly advise all of you to visit the Georgia Council's website, www.gcee.org, and learn about all the great things they do and support them in all of their endeavors.
I'm a super hands-on teacher, and with virtual, you really can't do that. So it's been a true challenge.
It's much harder than being in the classroom virtually, because you just can't figure out if they're actually getting it or they're just zoned out for that 40 minutes that I have them.
I'm having to spend more time planning during this pandemic, because now we have adopted the hybrid model of teaching. So I have to prepare for students face-to-face, as well as digital material for students who are virtual. So it's requiring like twice the amount of time to plan for those lessons.
I'm having to basically reinvent everything I do.
The Georgia Council on Economic Education has helped.
GCEE has encouraged me to take the COVID crisis and use it as an opportunity to enhance students' economic literacy. And this crisis has been the perfect opportunity to teach economic concepts like scarcity, supply and demand, opportunity costs, and good and bad saving and spending habits.
They've provided me with the tools that I need to be an effective teacher in a virtual setting.
It's a very good organization, and it does help teachers and cares about how to get information. I mean, they actually provide us with lessons. There's topics out there that our kids need to know, and they're not getting it. And Georgia Council on Economic Education is actually helping us.
Economics is real. It's all around us. I opened the AJC this morning and there was an article on unemployment, and that's actually what I'm teaching today in class. So the things that the students are learning today are happening all around them. Also, economics teaches you to think differently about the world and to think critically about the world. And I think that's more important today than ever.
Each year, we serve more than 2,500 K-12 teachers by providing proven professional development training, innovative classroom strategies, and stimulating lesson plans designed to help teachers teach economics and personal finance effectively. It's never been harder to be a teacher. These challenging times have reminded all of us just how important teachers are to the overall success of the economy and why it's essential that students understand important economic and personal finance concepts. You can help ensure our teachers are prepared to effectively teach economics and personal finance by donating today to the Georgia Council on Economic Education. Your financial support will make a difference in the lives of thousands of teachers and tens of thousands of students. To make a donation, please visit gcee.org. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Mr. Mike and Mike's son, Raymer's son, and look forward to seeing you at our next event, whether it's virtual or in person.
Yoshi, I want to thank you for all you do in the Japan American Society of Georgia, a great organization that is really bringing together Japan, the United States, and more specifically Georgia. So thank you. Appreciate all your work.
Great. Thank you. See you next time, everyone. Take care.
Bye.